Welcome back to Pairs World Knitting. I'm Jennifer, and this is a knitting podcast all about knitting, yarny adventures, and travel. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I am all too excited to be sharing holiday knits. Now, I'm being careful how I'm wording this. It is a gift knit session. However, I feel some of the patterns, many of the patterns, if not all, are just so wonderful that you may not want to gift all of them, or perhaps do a selfish knit for yourself and a gift knit of the items that I'm going to share about today. Let's move on and let's get into all of it. Just a note, of course, you're visually savvy. I've moved centimeters away from where I normally film to get all the holiday goodness that we have at our house today and for the holiday season. We are not normally big decorators. We are quite minimal in a lot of ways, except for when it comes to yarn and knitting, of course. But I was feeling it this year, and we've got a little holiday goodness. Speak of holiday goodness, I am wearing what I consider my very most festive sweater. This sweater is the Nordstrand sweater. This was designed by Hanne Rimmen. This is a free pattern that was in collaboration with Wolke, a Danish yarn company. And at the time I didn't use Wolke because I could not get my hands on it in Ontario. It was a challenging yarn to find. And true to form, of course, I didn't feel compelled to use the prescribed or recommended yarn. So I branched out and I used Berroco Ultra Alpaca. I'll include everything in the show notes, as I always do, with details even about the coloring. But I have to say the colors of this obviously are so festive, in this like deep kind of hunter green with the cream. And the green isn't even just a solid, it's almost like a heathered green with bits of kind of like yellow bobs and things. It's a soft alpaca, I'd say, although I am a rustic girl, you know, so I don't know if most people could wear this next to skin. I can. I feel like it's super soft and just fantastic even at the neck, and I do have a sensitive neck. This is, and I would say, a recommended first or beginner friendly pattern for color work. If you know basic sweater construction, I think this is going to be a joy to knit on. The motif of the pattern repeats is really symmetrical and easy to memorize. So for me, that makes it a joy in the process to knit. And of course, is such an eye pleaser when worn as the finished product. So again, that's the Nordstrand sweater. Again, details will be in my show notes, I will say, but I always feel funny when I'm sharing needle size because gauge is so personal. But on the body and color work, I use the same needle, which is a US 7 or a 4.7 millimeter. And yes, I have my little cheat sheet that sits just below. And on the ribbing, I went one size down with a US 6 or a 4.0 millimeter. That's Nordstrand sweater. Let's get into our gift knits. So with this, I have done a nice melange, I feel, of either patterns that I've used before, new to me patterns that I would be so excited to be casting on soon as a gift knit or a selfish knit. And they range from free to paid for patterns. Some of the costs vary, of course. Some are really reasonable, but we pay for the time that the designer has put in. Getting into all of it. First, I'm going to start with mittens. My first mitten that I have as a pattern is a paid for pattern. This is called the Color Block Mittens. These are designed by Annika, Andrea, Wolke, and they are a stunning but simple mitten to knit up. I have not knit on these yet, and these are definitely my cue. I've got to say, from knitting on the dainty bubble mittens for my mother, I think mittens are going to be my new jam for emergency knitting, and just is so fitting for the holiday season. These are knit in a worsted weight, although I'm sure as we go we can probably kind of vary the gauge of the yarn that we're using. They're recommending a US 6 on the body or 4 millimeter, and one size down for the it's called ribbing. This is why I have chosen these gorgeous mitts. So I believe that these can be definitely a stash yarn or a scrappy yarn project where you don't have to go out and buy new yarn unless you want to, of course, but also you can blend different textures. So hear me out. I was thinking of doing 2 different colors. You could obviously do more because I'm sure you can, be as creative as you want. Of course, it is a simple mitten pattern. But I was thinking, how cool would it be to do a yarn base? So where your cuff is at your wrist in, say, just, a sheep's yarn, but then do that top with a mohair. I feel like the combo texture would be gorgeous, maybe even a Siri to add the extra fluff, but I really enjoy the idea of mixing the fibers and textures. So this looks like a pretty inclusive pattern of sizing. They're saying from toddler to adult large. And because I feel the motif on these mitts, they could be for anyone in your knitting knit love circle. So those are the color block mittens. The next step, these are mittens that I have made before and featured in my last video. It is a free pattern. These are the Lennys Chunky mittens. These are fantastic. Pattern is super simple for a super simple mitt. These are by Granlina Free or Fry, and this is a free pattern, as I mentioned. This includes a bulky gauge and is knit on a US 9 or 5.5 millimeter needle with 2 sizes down on the ribbing recommended. The pattern features just a 1x1 rib, but what I did just to make it a little more special, I did a twisted rib. And I feel like it just finishes it off really nicely. With this pattern, it comes in 3 sizes, not massively inclusive, but it's a free pattern. Why I've chosen, of course, because it is a non-paid pattern, and it's gonna be a speedy knit. It's simple, you can use yarns that you have already, and it's gonna be a fun one. Make it as you will. My next mitten in queue, as probably another selfish mitten knit or a very lucky receiver will get a pair of these. These are the Ghostwood Mittens. These are designed by Kiyomi Bergen. This is a paid for pattern, but a pretty reasonable price, I feel. And again, it's a really simple mitt, but with a gorgeous design. These are recommended to use Erin weight. She has combined, it looks like a yarn and a lace mohair. You could do just an Erin if this is what you have on hand or wish to knit, depending, of course, who your recipient is of these mittens. And it's a pretty tight gauge. She has a US 4 on here for needle size on the body of the mitt, which is a 3.5 millimeter. It's quite surprising, so I don't know if all people would be knitting with that kind of needle, but I feel with mittens you do want the gauge fairly tight so that the mittens last and stay, don't get holes and are robust. So the reason why I picked this mitten pattern, obviously it's a gorgeous design and will be a speedy knit with an Erin weight. Gorgeous gift to give. We are going to get into hats, and I feel some hats will be not much of a surprise, but I've got some kickers in here too. First choice is the muscle bore hat. This is a very tried and true pattern by our knitting community in general. I've knit quite a few muscle bore hats in my day. This is a paid for pattern by Yosolda Teague, and it's a fantastic and really interesting construction. This hat I also featured in my last video. It was the green Masaboro. It's a hat that basically is knit two-sided, if you will, but the really interesting, and so it's a super cozy hat because you're getting 2 pieces of fabric against the whole head and ear, so it's super cozy. But this is a hat that you gauge swatch, you gauge swatch as you knit down, so you're essentially not knitting, if you will, from the top. With the increases, you're measuring your gauge from the beginning and taking that kind of concept of gauge swatching to construct the remainder of your hat for any size you want. It's crazy inclusive of sizing, it's gender inclusive, anyone can receive this gorgeous hat. You can make it as fun as you want by adding patterns, stripes, scrap yarn, stash yarn, and any gauge. So even though there is a cost associated with this hat, of course, which it very much deserves, this is going to be a tried and true. You're going to start knitting on this pattern for yourself for a gift knit, realize how great it is and fun. You're going to use this pattern multiple times. So super bang for your buck with this one. That's a muscle burl hat. The next hat I have is a hat I also have experience with, and I've knit a few of these. This was a popular gift knit that I chose last year for people. This is the Tilda Hat. This is by Inesse Sang, and this is a bulky cable works, not sweater, sorry, bulky cable hat. This is knit on a US 8, a 5mm needle with 2 sizes down on the ribbing, and is a simple cable motif. I do remember referring to the chart a bit, and then it kind of gets really repetitive. So I think it's an intuitive knit. The reason why I chose this hat is that it is a free pattern. So again, when we're gift knitting, or at least in my mind, I'm already putting my time in. I am buying usually materials for the gift knit. It's kind of nice to have a pattern you already have, or it's a free pattern to make your gift knits. It's a speedy knit as well, and I think it makes for a really impressive gift. So that's the Tilda Hat. My next hat has a really common name for the pattern, but is by a different designer. This is the Weekend Hat. This hat that I've chosen is by Hiromi Nagasawa. I hope I said it okay. This is a gorgeous cable work pattern again in a hat. And I feel like could just be a stunner. It's a DK weight, so she knits it on a US 6 needle or 4.0mm needle with 2 sizes down on the ribbing. But I feel like it's a stunner. She's got 2 different options that are set out for this hat. She's got a version where she's knit just down kind of like to the eyebrow, if you will, with ribbing. So it looks maybe like a couple inches or so of ribbing. However, she's also knit an option that you'll see if you pull up the page where it's got a double rib almost. So I should say where she's folded over that brim to create like a cozier effect for the forehead and for the ears. The one downfall with this is it's one size, I think because of the cable motif, but why I've chosen it, it's just stunning cable pattern. It looks quite simple to do. It's a DK weight, so you're going to be able to choose if you want to do a DK weight yarn on its own or do a mix of a fingering and a mohair to make it extra beautiful and kind of like fancier. That's the Weekend Hat. The next and last head item I have, or head knitwear, is a headband. This is a headband with a twist, and it looks like a really simple but lovely knit to gift. This is by Morella Moments, and this is also a free pattern. This looks like it's just like almost like I think a 1x1 ribbing. Looks super cozy. It's in a DK weight that they've used, a US 4 needle or 3.5mm, and they've done a little twist to sew up the front of the hat to add a little like zhuzh to it. I've definitely knit my mother something like this, but in a stock knit, so it curled on itself. This is in my queue. Potentially for a little holiday knit for her, because she is a headband girl, not a hat lady. That's a headband with a twist and free pattern. Moving on to our neckwear. This, I'm always having a good time putting this stuff together. So, first item is the Free for All cowl. This has been in my queue for a while, but I haven't knit it. I get too excited about other, brighter, shinier objects over on the side. I do want to knit this one day. The designer is Jen Peck, and this is knit using a worsted weight, heavy needle with a US 8 or a 5mm needle, and again, a free pattern. A cowl, again, on the neck, you can't go wrong for people because it's size inclusive, unless, you've got, I don't know, a huge rugby player that you're knitting for, but you'll probably be okay. The motif on the cowl is really beautiful. It looks almost like yarn overs are done. Again, I don't have experience with it, and would make just a beautiful knit. The reason why I chose this guy, free pattern, speedy knit, and it's nice, size inclusive. My next knitwear item is extremely popular, and it was last year, it will be again this year. I definitely saw it was in the top 20 Q1 Ravelry already. This is a Sophie Scarf. This is by Petite Knit. It is a scarf that I feel you can kind of play it bigger, smaller, use various gauges and various yarns to knit this up. The pattern calls for a DK weight with a US 4 needle or a 3.5mm, but as we know, it's a scarf. You can knit onto the gauge that you want as long as you have enough yarn. So what I've done even for the Sophie shawl that I've knit a few times is I weigh the yarn I have. I basically divide it in half, and until I get to half, I run my increases. When I weigh the yarn at the half point, I start my decreases. So again, the pattern is a great follow along, but you can make it as you wish with yarn you have in stash or scrappy yarn. It could be fun with various colors, again, various textures in it, could be awesome. I have to say for neckwear, at least for me, and I think the humans that I knit for, something soft, of course, on the neck, something not rustic, is usually more of a winner, especially for those who we gift knit for. Just a thought. That's the Sophie Scarf, a speedy knit, a stash buster, could be a good time. The next two, of course, I have to include some shrugs by Jackie Rose. The first recommendation that I have is the Holiday Shrug. I've knit this, I love it, I wear it. It's a joy. This is a free pattern by Jackie. It calls for bulky weight, or I've used Erin, I would classify as Erin weight. She recommends a US 9 on this or 5.5. I've knitted on smaller with a US 8. Totally cool, and it's size inclusive. It's free, it's awesome, and such a gorgeous accessory to share with somebody who you love. Again, I would suggest maybe something cozy, because it's going to be probably sitting on some bare skin near the neck or the collar line, but up to you. The next, of course, is the Cinch Shrug. This was my newest cast off that I shared and featured in my last video, and this is very similar to the Saturday. You can knit various gauges with this, but it is a shaped shrug. So there's some neck, cozy neck hugging component of the shrug, and then shaping at the shoulders to bring it over in such a gorgeous way with increases. This is recommended to use a US 7 with an Erin weight. Ironically, that is the exact needle size I use, which I'm really surprised. I thought it was a bigger one. So also a 4.5mm needle on this guy. It's a super simple knit. This could be great if you're a beginner knitter or even wanting to, dabble into accessory knitting or gift knitting. And this is a pay for pattern. There's a little more thinking and involvement that has gone into this pattern, but very worth it because I feel the end product is gorgeous, so versatile. that is the Cinch Shrug. And speaking of the Saturday and Cinch Shrug, may I plug the Holiday Shrug Club KAL. This is a knit along that I have started in November 3rd, running until December 31st. It is a knit along if you wish to participate over or before the holidays, to knit a garment, or sorry, I should say, to knit an accessory for a loved one, a knit-worthy person in your life or yourself. You can choose any of Jackie Rose's shrugs that she has on offer. The Friday, Saturday, or Sunday shrug, these are all free patterns that have been prepared beautifully by Jackie, or as well the Cinch Shrug, which is the paid for pattern. Any four of these patterns can classify, of course, into the knit along. And if you hashtag Holiday Shrug Club KAL into Instagram with a post or reel, you are entered each time to win one of two prizes. The first prize is a $50 gift card to the Knitting Loft here in Toronto, and you choose what you want with that $50 from the Knitting Loft. It's a super lovely, fantastic prize. The second prize is a pattern from Jackie Rose. This is a paid for pattern, but will come to you free. And this is the SoHo square. This has been popping up over the internet and is just a colorful delight. That could also make a fabulous gift knit, just saying. So that is the Holiday Shrug Club KAL. It's definitely an exciting time. It's my first knit along that I'm hosting, and I have to say I am loving what I'm seeing from people. So thank you for everyone that's joined already, and for those that have not yet joined but may wish to dip your toes in, dip away, get in there. If you have any questions, leave a comment on here, or you can always DM me on Instagram. Holiday Shrug Club KAL. Thanks. Next up, we have in our gift knit world, we are finishing with garments. Now you might be thinking, okay, that's a lot, especially for this time of year. We're still in November, but we are coming to a quick close. Not a lot of time before the holidays start. You're not wrong. However, the two items that I've chosen, if you are willing to do a garment and kind of motor through, I've got two options for you. The first is the vest number one. Now I am saying vest. This is a paid for pattern designed by My Favorite Things Knitwear, and is just a delight to wear and to make. I knit this myself for me as a selfish knit, and but I think this could definitely make a great gift pattern. This obviously doesn't have sleeves, so it is a little quicker. And the nice thing is, it's a chunkier weight. It's written for a worsted weight yarn that's knit in a US 7 needle or 4.5 millimeter. And there are no bells and whistles on this knit. This is a really simple vest. Also, why I've chosen it, gender neutral. Anyone can wear this, and it's fabulous. There are really nice details that you can definitely change on the neckline. They have a double folded neckline. If you are running short on yarn or time, you do a single, and the same goes for the armbands. You can do a single or double. I believe the pattern from my memory called for a single, but if you want to make it extra fancy, you can go for a double. You can do a twisted rib. Again, you know, it's your knitting. You're the boss of your knitting. And a vest could be a lovely option as a gift knit and a speedier knit. My very last garment to gift, if you are so willing and generous, is the 100% tried and true Binoculus. I have knit a number of them for myself and for other people, and I have to say it's a favorite knit. I mean, I'm on the boat, I've joined the boat, I'm there, I'm on it. I wasn't on it at the very beginning because I did find the pattern a little more challenging for the different stitches as a quite new knitter when I started. But I have to say now, I can probably kind of bang it out of the park pretty well. I have knit a number of them, so that's probably why as well. This pattern is by Midori Hirose. It's a paid for pattern that you will use multiple times, I assure you. This is like the #1 most popular pattern, and here's why. It is such a versatile pattern. One, it's very size inclusive. You can knit for a mini me person and it's gonna be a nice drape and a boxy fit. You can knit for any size and it's going to look great because there are size ranges that are very inclusive on this pattern. The fabric, or I should say the yarn choice that you have on this, it's carte blanche, like you choose what you want. There is a gauge, of course, of 14 stitches per 10 centimeters. However, I have to say, like, you're still the boss of your knitting. It's gonna turn out just fine. So you can do something chunkier in gauge. You can do something a little lighter. People have knit this in just mohair alone, 2 strands of mohair, in DK, in Aran, in unspun. You can use stuff in your stash. You can go out and buy stuff. I mean, this is a fantastic pattern. I do want to say that the time-consuming piece I feel in my brain would be to include a full sleeve for a gift knit. Don't do it. If you don't have time or don't have the yarn, don't do a sleeve. Let it go. I think the original pattern option is to include no sleeve. They call it a cap sleeve. You can add a short sleeve on, which I've also done as a gift knit. If you really want to give it, do the full sleeve. Up to you. That's a ranunculus. And that would be such a stunner of a gift knit. Okay. Those are my gift knit options. I really hope you found this video helpful. I know it was super fun to put together and kind of reflect on what my criteria would be for a gift knit. So hopefully this helps kind of relieve any of that stress you may have about gift knitting and has offered some inspiration to that, or even your selfish knits for you. Not that we should call them selfish knits. They are knits that we create for ourselves and find great joy in. If you have not already joined, as I said, for the Holiday Shrug Club KAL, I hope you do, and let me know which shrug you would like to knit on. As far as the gift knits go, let me know which one you are thinking of producing yourself and knitting on, or if there are any fabulous gift knits that you have done before or excited to knit on outside of the list that I've created, please share with our knitting community here. That would be amazing. I hope you find great joy in your knitting today, be it gift knitting or for yourself, and we shall see you very soon. Thank you so much for joining.